Hello everybody and welcome back to a new video. Today I'm going to be going over a deck that I have built using 3 copies of a structure deck. So it's completely new, but I haven't seen anyone with this deck recipe, so for the most part it's just something I came up with over the span of an hour as I was sorting through the cards. So this is going to be Jack Atlas's deck. And it won't have all of his cards, but it's going to have the ones that'll make the deck most consistent, and that will make it, in my opinion, the strongest it can be with the structure deck that was given. So here, place that over there. We're starting off with 2 copies of Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend. Since this card acts as Red Dragon Archfiend while it's on the field or in the graveyard, it can work with a lot of support cards for Red Dragon Archfiend, which is really good. And it has situational effects, so I threw 2 copies in here just for the heck of it to fill up space. Next, we have 3 copies of Red Dragon Archfiend, and I love this card a lot. It looks very cool, and it's iconic to the Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D series. All of them come like this, and it looks very, very cool. So the whole deck is centered around this card, so having 3 copies of either this or Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend is very essential for this deck. Next, we have the newest retrain, Scarred Dragon Archfiend. This is also a level 8 Dark Dragon Synchro monster, which does synergize with some of the cards in this deck, specifically the Spell and Trap support. It's considered to be Red Dragon Archfiend while on the field or in the graveyard, and if it's sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a Red Dragon Archfiend from your extra deck. So if this guy is sent away, you can summon this card. You won't be able to summon Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend since it's not considered Red Dragon Archfiend until he's on the field or in the graveyard. Now we have a single copy of Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. He's just there if you have all the pieces put together, though he's not the ultimate boss monster in this deck. He's just you know, the second one. Now we have a single copy of Hot Red Dragon Archfiend and Hot Red Dragon Archfiend's Bane. Both of these cards are pretty good, but they're situational. That's why I only have 1 copy of each, because you're not going to use them during every duel. It's only a situational event where you might need their effects, or where you have all of the materials on the field to make both of them. Next, we have 3 copies of Red Rising Dragon. This card is essential for summoning the boss monster in this deck very, very quickly. It can summon Crimson Resonator, because when it's synchro summoned, you can target 1 Resonator monster in your graveyard, special summon it. So you can special summon Crimson Resonator, and his effect lets you special summon 2 more tuner monsters. So you can summon 2 more level 2 tuner monsters, and then synchro summon those 3 guys into the boss monster of the deck, who is up next. Red Supernova Dragon. Since this card is just in general better than Red Nova Dragon, I got rid of Red Nova Dragon and put in Red Supernova Dragon. This card is pretty close to being unbeatable for certain decks, because it can't be destroyed by an opponent's card effects, and it's likely going to have over 5,500 attack points, due to its ability to gain attack points by the amount of tuners in your graveyard. So destroying it by battle is certainly not going to be easy for most decks. And if your opponent's monster declares an attack, you can banish this card and all cards your opponent controls. And then during your opponent's next end phase, after this card was banished by its own effect, you can special summon it. So this card is a monster. Now we're moving on to the main deck, which I think was the most difficult part of creating the deck, just because you need to think about all of the necessities in the tuner monster to non-tuner monster ratio, so that way you can get a good hand every time, or almost every time. So we have a single copy of Wandering King Wildwind. We have 3 copies of Bone Archfiend, because it can special summon itself. A single copy of Red Warg, just in case you have a tuner in your hand. You can summon, if you have a Resonator monster in your hand, you can summon the Resonator monster and special summon this guy from your hand, so that way you can automatically synchro summon into a level 8 or 9 synchro monster. Now we have 3 copies of Red Sprinter, because it lets you special summon a level 3 or lower fiend tuner from your hand or graveyard. This is good for setting up plays real quickly, whether it be the beginning of the duel, the middle, or the end. Now we have 3 copies of Crimson Resonator. This is the one that allows you to summon Red Supernova Dragon really quickly. So it's very important, and it's a level 2 tuner, which in my opinion is the best for this deck. Now we have 2 copies of Red Resonator. It's not the most important Resonator in this deck, that's with Crimson Resonator, but it's here for Crimson Resonator's effect for the most part, and so is Vision Resonator, but it has an effect that's better than Red Resonator. So you can special summon this card if a level 5 or higher dark monster is on the field. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 spell or trap card that mentions Red Dragon Archfiend. So we'll go into the best ones for that search later. Now, we have 3 copies of Soul Resonator. This card is incredibly important to this deck, because if it's normal or special summoned, you can add a level 4 or lower fiend monster from your deck to your hand except Soul Resonator. So this allows you to search basically any monster you want in this deck, which is very good. Searchers are always incredibly great for decks, because it allows for increased consistency. And this card is just all around really great, and it's just really good. Now we have Ascator Dawnwalker. This card, while not specifically used by Jack Atlas, is very good for his deck, because you can discard 1 card and special summon him from your hand in defense position, and then you can special summon a copy of Fire Ant Ascator from your deck. So that automatically lets you go into a level 8 synchro monster, which, as you might have guessed, would be one of your Red Dragon Archfiend cards. Next we have Vice Dragon. 3 copies. I chose 3 copies because you can special summon this card from your hand if your opponent controls a monster. While its attack points will be halved, you likely won't be using it for its attack points. It's going to be synchro material, so just getting that special summon is always good. Now we have 3 copies of Resonator Command, so you can discard a Resonator monster to add a level 4 or lower Fiend monster from your deck to your hand. This card is amazing for the consistency of this deck, because if you have a hand of nothing but Resonators, you can't do anything. you can't do anything because they're all tuners and you need a non-tuner. Well, this card allows you to get any level 4 or lower fiend that you want, so that way you can actually go into your plays, because you'll have a non-tuner and then you'll have a tuner in your hand. Now say you have nothing but non-tuners in your hand. That's where the next card comes in, which is Resonator Call, which lets you add a Resonator monster from your deck to your hand. That's a free tuner monster, and there's no cost on the card, so it's just a 1-for-1 trade, and you get any tuner you want. And honestly, this card is better than ending up with a tuner in your hand, because you can choose whichever one you want, whichever one's better for your circumstances at the moment, based on, what's in your hand. Next, we have 2 copies of Crimson Gaia. I don't typically like to have 3 copies of a continuous spell or trap card unless it's essential for the deck. This one isn't, but during your main phase, you can add 1 Red Dragon Archfiend or a card that mentions it from your deck to your hand. So it allows you to search out cards that you need, and the best one in this deck is actually one that's up next. Crimson Gaia has some other effects, but the one that's most notable to me is the Searcher. I love searching for the cards that I need. And the most powerful one is, well, Absolute Power Force. So you can target 1 Red Dragon Archfiend you control, and if that monster you control battles an opponent's monster this turn, apply these effects until the end of the damage step. So it gains 1,000 attack points, bringing it up to a whopping 4,000. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects, so it basically becomes Ancient Gear Golem. If it attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage. Like I said, it's like Ancient Gear Golem. And then any battle damage your opponent takes from that battle is doubled. So if it attacks a defense position monster your opponent controls and its defense points are 0, you win, because that's 8,000 damage. Now, even if your opponent's monster had 2,000 defense, they would be taking 4,000 damage. So that double damage is really good for this card. Next, we have a copy of Red Rain. So if you control a level 8 or higher Synchro monster, you banish all monsters on the field except monsters with the highest level, and the remaining monsters on the field are unaffected by other card effects except their own until the end of this turn. You can add more Red Rain cards from into the deck list. Me personally, I like the very nice number of 40, so I don't typically like to add more than 40 cards in a deck. So I compromised and took out more copies of Red Rain. So this card is very good, and feel free to throw it in your deck if you like it more than some of the other ones I put in here. Next up is Red Zone. I like this card because it looks a lot like the Nazca lines that the Earthbound Immortals have in the show, and it's really cool because it's like a good version of the Earthbound Immortals Nazca lines. So when an opponent's monster, when your opponent activates any card or effect while you control Red Dragon Archfiend or a Synchro monster that mentions it, you can target 1 card on the field and destroy it. So that's always good. And then 2 copies of Time to Stand Up, which the artwork looks really cool. I do like all the red in the artwork, and Red Dragon Archfiend down here, and then the majestic Red Dragon Archfiend up there. So if a Dragon Synchro monster is on the field, you can special summon up to 2 monsters that are Resonator monsters. So it basically lets you continue into your combos even more. So if you have this face down on your first turn and you're trying your combos, but your opponent's like messing with them, by the end of your opponent's turn, or rather by the start of your turn, you can, continue with your combos if you're able, and then use this to further increase your chances of getting cards out on the field, like Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. Now, you can also banish this card from your graveyard to negate effects that, when a monster effect is activated, while you control a level 10 or higher Dark Dragon Synchro monster, banish this card from your graveyard and negate the effect. And if you do, one Synchro monster you control gains 2,000 attack points until the end of your next turn. So, no matter what Synchro monster you use this on, it's going to give it a significant power boost. And if you combo this with Absolute Power Force, you'd have to try to lose the duel. Now, I will admit that this deck isn't perfect. I just like the way I built it, and, you know, everyone has their own preferences when it comes to deck building, so feel free to experiment. I find that the app Yugipedia is really good because it helps me test out decks over and over to make sure that they're consistent, and it helps me better manage I'm drawing a blank. My apologies. It helps me better understand what cards are in my deck, what cards I should add, and it lets me test out decks before I purchase them, so that way I know that it is a good buy. Otherwise, you know, I don't want to buy some crappy deck that I thought was going to be good, but isn't actually consistent. But, yeah, feel free to purchase 3 copies of the newest structure deck for Jack Atlas, and you can make just about any combination of cards that you can imagine. So, hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe if you made it this far. And I will be opening a new YouTube channel. It's going to be completely unrelated to Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm just going to read books out loud, and if you guys are sick and tired of my monotone voice, I assure you, I'll probably be better reading the books, but we'll see. Anyway, hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next video.